Independent MP Kylea Tink's seat of North Sydney would be abolished under the AEC's New South Wales electoral map redistribution. 700,000 enrolled voters statewide would swap electorates under the proposed map redrawing. The redistribution would see voters in Ms Tink's seat go to the nearby seats of Bennelong, Bradfield and Warringah. Ms Tink has not yet indicated if she will run for a nearby seat.
It's very difficult for any person to predict where they may be in 12 months' time, let alone 2 years' time or 3 years' time. I have absolutely loved every minute in this role. I consider it a privilege. It wasn't an opportunity that I ever saw coming, but I've been very grateful to experience it. And I would hope that no matter what I do in the future, I will be incredibly committed to continuing to build on the work I've already done.
Under the changes, Shadow Treasurer Angus Taylor's seat of Hume would move further into the outskirts of Sydney, shedding its regional centre of Goulburn. Goulburn will move into the Labor-held seat of Eden Monaro. The New South Wales redistribution will be contestable for the next 3 weeks.
Those boundaries are determined independently by the AEC, but the important thing is that they're only draft boundaries at this stage, and people have the right to object to them for the next 3 weeks. So we'll see what those objections look like. It's up to the individual parties and the individual candidates to put those objections in before we get final boundaries.
And joining me live is Alex Morris, Senior Media Officer from the AEC. Alex, thank you very much for joining us and good morning. As we just heard, as you well know, draft boundaries so far, but it's expected to affect 12.81% of electors. How significant is this?
Look, it is a significant number of electors, but of course we have to remember that any number of electors is significant when we're thinking about New South Wales, which is the largest state in the Commonwealth by number of enrolled people. So there's a lot of people moving boundaries. In the grand scheme of things, it's not too many for the entirety of New South Wales. We've recently announced a redistribution proposal down in Victoria as well, and the proposal there only moves around 8% of all electors. So there's a small number, slightly more than Victoria, but not a huge number in the grand scheme of things.
And the submissions are open to objections until the 12th of July. Do you usually get a reasonable amount of feedback?
We do. The great part about the redistribution process is that it is a public process from where to go. So the proposals that came out yesterday were actually based in large part on public submissions that we received in the early parts of this year. It's once again open to the public now. So we are asking for anyone who objects to the proposal, or even someone who strongly agrees with the proposal, to get in touch with the AEC and for us to pass this on, these objections on to the New South Wales Redistribution Committee, because the committee is actually separate to the AEC. And we'll feed that into the final report.
And Alex, one of the oldest electorates in Australia is the seat of North Sydney. It looks to be abolished. What were some of the factors for this?
There's a lot of factors that go into any decision like this. At the end of the day, the situation for New South Wales is it had to lose a seat just based on population growth rates across the country. And the Redistribution Committee needs to make a decision that caters for the entirety of the state. So that means looking at the entire picture, considering submissions about where seats should be abolished and which seats should be abolished, and considering things as well like population growth in relative to other parts of the state. So in the case of North Sydney, one of the things that was considered was the population growth around the sort of northern beaches area versus the western suburbs of Sydney, for example. And based on that and a number of other factors, North Sydney was the one that was selected.
And talk us through the changes to Hume, Eden Monaro and Riverina. What do we need to know here? Yeah,
definitely. So the big change around those regions, Hume is at the moment a geographically quite large electorate, and it actually was slightly over-enrolled for voters. So the committee made the call to move some of those voters into both Eden Monaro and to the Riverina. That meant a very significant change. If you actually, I'm looking at the graphic you've got there, a very significant change in terms of geographics of the Hume electorate, but not a huge change in the number of electors. So the actual number of electors who are moving is quite low, But in order to fit all of those electors, of course, we're thinking about regional areas where people are not packed in. You have to move a lot of real estate in order to move the right number of electors.
And you mentioned a smaller change in Victoria, about 8% of electors. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, the big change there is another abolition. Victoria is another one where the population growth rates meant that it was due to lose a seat, and the seat that was proposed to be lost in Victoria was Higgins. The voters of Higgins under the proposal would move to the 5 surrounding electorates. That's electorates like Melbourne. And Melbourne, of course, as well, is one of those electorates that previously was just north of the Yarra River. The proposal would actually stretch Melbourne out over across the river and take in parts of South Bank as well.
And finally, Alex, submissions, as we mentioned, open to objections until the 12th of July. When will we know the outcome?
So this is really a year-long proposal for both the losses of seats in New South Wales and Victoria. And of course, over in WA, they're actually gaining a seat as well. There's a proposal to add the new seat of Bullwinkle in the Perth Hills. These will take place, we're accepting submissions now, I should say, and the redistribution committees for each of the states will consider those submissions, and the process should be wrapped up between late September and early October for all 3 states. I should also add, for the sake of completeness, we have just started a redistribution process in the Northern Territory as well. Now, there's no seats scheduled to be gained or lost in the NT, but a big part of the redistribution process as well is balancing out the number of voters in each seat. So we're looking at the Northern Territory with that lens right now and making sure that both of those seats has roughly the equal number of electors.
Great, well explained. Thanks so much for that, Alex Morris. Really appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks for your time.